Miss
Yeah.
McCrae's studio was at 410 South Michigan in the Fine Arts Building.
Yeah. Okay.
And the elevator was one of those cage elevators, and they had an elevator operator, a man in a
Still do.
uniform. And hmm, fifth floor, going up. And then the Ellis Dubélé School was on the two floors above us. And there was this girl, let's call her a girl at the time because we were both like 19 or something. Uh, she studied with them, and we would meet on the sixth floor to have a cigarette between classes. Oh, good Lord.
How did that how did that work with, different ballet studios in the same building? Was there a competitive atmosphere at all or
I never felt it. I never, classes must have been at different times because I never ran into anybody.
okay.
You know.
And well, I guess maybe we can get like the first things out of the way. You're from Chicago, right?
Yeah,
What neighborhood did you
going
grow up in?
way south, 8200 south, near the steel mills. And I, my family had nothing to do with, I mean, we didn't go to the theater. We didn't see dance. We didn't go to the opera. We did go to the movies. And I think probably that's where I got the bug, to see Dan Daly and Betty Grable dancing together, or Rita Hayworth and Gene Kelly dancing together. And I was always a uh, extroverted and lively, shall we say. I think there's another name for it today. But a lively kind of kid. And, my parents, the first thing that I did when I was about 8 years old, they gave me piano lessons. So I had a good music background. And I studied till the time I was about 13 or 14, something like that. Um, and when I was about 10, because I liked the movie so much, and I think I just wanted to be Gene Kelly. And my parents, there was a school, a neighborhood school on the south side of Chicago, that my parents enrolled me in a tap class and an acrobatic class. So I could learn to do flip flops, back flips, and all that kind of stuff. And I was flipping around, believe me. And I liked it. I really did. Um, my dad passed away when I was 12 years old, and I just found a postcard from the fellow who was the teacher on the South Side. His name was Al Fredericks, saying, "We have to have Jim continue. It's really important, especially now that he continues with his classes, because if he's going to do something and he does have talent, but I was 12, 13, 14, you start dating, you start seeing. So it was a whole other ball game. I just quit. But there was a girl that I went to school with, and her sister was studying with a professional teacher, she called her. So I asked her, where is this? Downtown Chicago. And there began the journey. I went to Edna McCrae, who taught at the Fine Arts Building, 410 South Michigan, on the fifth floor. And I took a summer course. I just wanted to, like I said, I wanted to be Gene Kelly. I had no idea I was signing up for ballet, but they told me if I wanted to dance, the secretary at the desk and Miss McCrae, if you want to dance, you have to have a ballet background. Okay, this is a 4 week class in the summertime, and I said, sure. So I took the class. They told me to go to Capezio's and to get myself some tights. And everything else that you need with tights is, I think, how they put it. Couldn't even say dance belt at the time. And so I went to Capezio's, and the kind of tights I got, because they look kind of, I don't know, they look kind of like fun. They were wool, gray wool tights. So the first class I go into, to study ballet, I sit on the floor, and Miss McCrae has us just sit on the floor and stretch our legs out in front and just flex and do this with the feet. Just flex to get an idea of what you have to point your feet no matter what you're doing. Well, it just so happened that I sat on a little nail. I didn't even feel it. And when I moved, it started unraveling. The tights, the wool tights started unraveling. So it was really kind of embarrassing. I went out and I don't know, maybe they had an extra pair of tights or something around. I changed what they were, and later on when we got to know each other a bit better and I was working professionally, Miss McCrae told me, she said, when you walked in this door, I didn't know what I was going to do with you, with your bow legs, and then your tights come unraveled. She said I had to just hold myself back from just laughing out loud at you because I know how embarrassed we were. And this is your introduction to ballet, right?
Okay, let's pause for a sec. That's Faye.
So anyhow, that summer, 4-week summer session was over, and she saw apparently something that she thought showed some promise. So she offered me a scholarship, 2 years of Edna McCrae, 6 days a week, from 9:30 in the morning, because I had to get there to sprinkle the floor and all that. I was on a scholarship, right? And we had classes all day, all kinds of classes. We had a beginners, intermediate beginner class was the first one. Then we had a professional class. All the people who danced in the Broadway shows who came to Chicago, the national companies would come to Miss McCrae and study because her reputation preceded her. And then we'd have a character class. We'd have a tap class. We'd have a pas de deux class. And Miss McCrae's the one who said, I think if you're going to lift these girls, you're going to have to go to the gym. She said, you better get to the gym. So that started my days at the gym. I'm so grateful for it now because it has served me well in terms of just, feeling good and looking okay.
Yeah. About how old were you? You had graduated high school at this point?
I just graduated high school, so I had to be 18 or 19
Okay.
years old when I first started studying with Miss McCrae. But I'll tell you something. She was tough. I mean, I have a photograph of her. Wait. I don't know if you can zoom in on this.
Yeah.
Where are you, Miss M? Here she is. She was tough. No nonsense, Edna McCrae.
What did she do that made her so tough?
Well, she was very demanding. She would say things like, we don't spit on the French language or on music. She would say, I need some examples of 3/4 music. And so we'd give her a few examples, like a waltz, and some guy said, and a polonaise. She says, it's not a polonaise from Poland, it's a polonaise from Poland. And it goes 1 and a 2 and 3 and 1 and a 2 and 3 and there was a blackboard in the classroom, and she would make us take chalk and write Polonnaise. And then she would say, she'd have another thing with 5 things of chalk, and she'd make a staff, and she said, write it in note values. I mean, you don't get training like that anywhere. And she would say, it's not a forte, it's a fouette, spelled Fouette with an accent aigu on the E, and it means to whip, right? So we had to learn to spell. We don't spit on the French language. And if you didn't, she'd whack you. I mean, not in the head or anything like that, but she'd push your shoulder or something like that. She was tough because she knew. She said to me, we have to stuff into you in 2 years what it takes other people 10 years to learn if you want to go out into the world and start working. And we did. Guess what? We did. And I really have the basis for any kind of dancing. You know, the ballet training, the tap training. She taught us, that woman that we just saw the photograph of us, taught us basic tap. And when we got to a point where we were getting more advanced, she'd bring someone in who was a great tap teacher, and we'd take a tap lesson with whoever it was. And the same thing with jazz. She brought in a fellow named Bob Frellison to teach us jazz, pas de deux, with the girls in the class. She said, if you're gonna do pas de deux with people, you're gonna have to lift. You better start going to the gym. And my gym days started, and I did lift. And I have to tell you about one. I did. She would take us out to do different kinds of performances all over the city. Leonard's Polish restaurant on New Year's Eve, doing the Mexican hat dance. And then one of the things that I believe Faye Driscoll, who we're going to meet in a while's mom, was in, we did excerpts from Swan Lake at the Chicago Opera House, accompanied by, are you ready for this? 100 accordions playing Swan Lake.
Wow.
And I did the pas de deux with one of the girls in Miss McCrae's class. But she took us, she wanted to give us a professional background training, so we would go out there and do it. Not just in class and do a bar and everything, but go out and use what we've learned in front of an audience so that we knew how to sell it as well. She was an amazing, amazing woman. If it were not for Edna McCrae, I would not have had a life in the theater.
Wow.
Yeah,
She really gave you the whole package, huh?
the whole package.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, you want to join us?
Sure, yeah.
I don't have another lavalier, but this one's
Oh, yeah,
on
okay,
and picks
sure.
up pretty well.
Yeah. Should I just sit next to
Yeah.
Uncle
Yeah.
Dad?
Next to Dad.
Wow, these pictures.
Oh yeah, I brought some pictures to show. Well, can I show this picture before we go on?
Sure.
This one? Are we
that
still
you?
rolling?
Look at
We
you.
are.
Look how
Oh.
beautiful you are.
Well, this is because of Edna McCrae. You know, she would always say, if your leg is higher than your knee when you're in attitude, you're doing it wrong.
you
And,
mean your lower leg?
your lower leg?
Yeah,
Yes. If your lower leg is higher than your knee, you're doing it wrong. And then this was around that same time. I think it might have been, I'm not sure what it was. Maybe it was just a pose for the camera. But she would send us to a photographer and she'd say, you need some photographs if you're going to dance to represent yourself. So again, I am forever, eternally grateful to Edna McCrae.
Wow.
And here we are with the beautiful Faye Driscoll, choreographer sublime, whose mom I met when we were both 19 years old.
Where exactly did you guys meet? I know
Well-
there was some dance club stuff involved in it. No.
It wasn't a dance club. Because I was studying with Miss McCrae, she had me audition for, she wanted me to go out and audition for a state fair show that was happening. That was going to tour to about 5 cities. And I got the job. And our first date was at the state fair in Ionia, Michigan. And we played other great cities like that. Maybe we played Oklahoma City. I think we did. But your mom got the job because another fella by the name of Lenny Jennings was in it, Chicago dancer. But he was more of a, and I think he finally did wind up studying with Edna McCrae as well. But we were all doing this thing. Your mom never had any kind of dance training at all. She was just a great jitterbugger, Lindy, swing, whatever we call it these days. And I met her and I said, look at you. I mean, you're perfect to be a ballet dancer. She had beautiful feet, beautiful arch, great legs, everything was proportionately right to be a
Mhm.
dancer, but she didn't have any, formal training.
Mhm.
So, and at the time she was working, are you ready? As a cocktail waitress at a place around Russ Street called the Coque de la Rue.
Mhm.
And it was the late 50s, early 60s, and she had white lipstick. Her hair was in a beehive, and she had,
Really?
yeah, she
That's
had,
different.
yeah, yeah. So anyhow, she starts going to class, and Miss McRae then, after she studied for a while, offered her a scholarship as well. And the next thing you know, no beehive, it's a bun. And she's starting to walk like a duck, and her boobs are starting to disappear from all the port de bras, right? And she studied, and your mother got into the Ruth Page Chicago Opera Ballet Company. She worked her butt off. She really took to it. She was passionate about it, and she was very disciplined. And your mom, year and a half maybe. I mean, she really got it, and got into the dance company and toured with Ruth Page's Chicago Opera Ballet
Mhm.
with Dolores Lipinski and
Mhm.
Patty Klekovic and Orrin Cahan and Ken Johnson and Orrin's brother, a pianist, Neil Cahan was his name.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
yeah, and a couple of other of our McRae students were a part of the corps de ballet. And that's how Maureen Burns is her mom's name, and that's how we met
Yeah.
in Chicago.
Hmm. What was it like? Did you pay to go? Was there a scholarship, or how did people
No,
pay to study? You told that already.
Yeah,
Okay.
I talked about
Yeah.
that, about how I took a summer course, a 4-week summer course, and then I think I studied once or twice a week while I was in my last
Yeah.
semester of school,
Mhm.
and then it was summertime again, and Miss McRae offered me a scholarship,
Oh, okay.
2 years.
Yeah.
Was that something she did across the board, or maybe only for males?
Mhm.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. She gave Maureen a scholarship.
She must have needed it. Yeah, because I don't know.
No,
There wasn't a lot of money, and
no, there
Right.
wasn't a lot of money, and
Yeah.
there we were, and she saw that we both were passionate about learning and what we were doing and really
Mhm.
giving it our all,
Mhm.
and she knew that we would have a career if we chose to do that beyond the classroom.
Hmm.
But yeah, it was. I should have Miss McRae's photo already. Yeah, we did a
Mhm.
close up of that. She was, and as I was saying to Janae, she was tough.
Mhm.
She made grown men cry.
Mhm.
I remember. What did she say to me one time? I mean, I didn't know about composers. I really didn't. I mean, I grew up on all the rock and roll in the 1950s, so I knew all of that rock around the clock stuff. And she asked me once, we had a pianist at every class. It wasn't recorded music. We had either Mrs. Rogers or Mr. Heinze was his name, and they knew all the classical repertoire. It was fantastic. And he played something one time, and she said, "Do you know who that composer is?" We're supposed to know all of this. And I would just get terrified because I know she'd give me a shove if I didn't. And I just, all I could think of at the time was Rimsky-Korsakov. And all the kids in the class started laughing and everything. And she said, "You better start listening to classical music if you're going to be in the dance world." I mean, so I did. I learned. I went to the library. I got LPs and learned Swan Lake and who Tchaikovsky was. And, it was amazing. She really broadened everybody's horizons and knowledge of dance and music.
Wow.
And it made me very happy because after I started, and here's another thing she did. She knew I wanted to be in the musical theater. She said, "You're going to have to sing." I said, "Well, I kind of sing." And she said, "No, you're going to have to sing." She said, "I have another scholarship that a student by the name of Ralph Robinson, who was also in Ruth Page's company, I don't know what happened to Ralph. I mean, I'm in touch with some of the other people like Dolores and Patty Klekovic and Monica Carter and Barbara Woodcoff and Joanne DeVito, different people like that. And of course, Maureen Burns and I are longtime friends. But no one knows what happened to Ralph. I think he probably got married and he's living on a ranch somewhere, raising horses, which he liked. Ralph started a fund, an added fund, scholarship fund for people who wanted to study acting or study singing or whatever. And she said, it's in an envelope in the desk in my office. Whenever you go to class, a singing lesson, take out however much cash and use it to pay.
Wow, that's very
right.
trusting.
It really is. And when you start working, you'll pay it back. And I did.
Oh, wow.
I started working and I paid it back so the next person can
That's
use
so
it.
beautiful.
It really was.
Yeah.
And I studied with a man right on the 8th floor, I think, of the Fine Arts Building, Fred Troll. And so she was supportive and she was with you all the way if she knew that you were putting your heart and soul into what you were doing and had the passion and the discipline to.
She went to bat for you.
But what I started to say was that as I started working and I did a tour of The Boyfriend playing Bobby Van Heusen, who sings Won't You Charleston with Me. And my Maisie was Priscilla Lopez, who went on to do a chorus line on Broadway. And it was in the Fine Arts Building in the Studebaker Theater that they had there. And I was able in my bio to thank Miss McCrae. And I invited her as my guest to come and see The Boyfriend. I hope I made her proud.
I'm sure you did.
Yeah, she was something.
Wow, yeah, she sounds like a beast, like a powerhouse.
Well, she was a powerhouse. She really didn't.
You probably already talked
Yeah.
about it. I don't know what you talked about, so I don't want to
Go
interrupt
ahead,
it. Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
maybe 5 minutes before you got here. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, and I'm sure you've heard stories from your mom about this.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
I mean, what was her experience with Miss McCrae? I mean, what do you
My
remember?
God, I mean, I have, memories of her little comments like what you were saying about the language and critiquing the way she looked and that she really supported and aided in her becoming a dancer.
Absolutely.
And I would love to hear her talk more about it.
Did she ever tell you that she used to call her Murphy?
Yes, that is something I remember.
Because
She called her Murphy.
instead,
Yeah.
her name is Maureen Burns, but she kept thinking Irish, and of course she knew her name, but she thought Murphy was fun.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I have this, I guess my image of it is one of, I know my mom had worked at the post office.
Me too.
Very briefly,
Yeah.
too, and that she had run off to join the circus after that to try and get away and do something completely different. I had a picture of her on an elephant. And that she then, I just had pictured her as this sort of wild child trying to find herself, dancing around town, working nightclubs, and then being kind of contained into this corset of a
Right.
ballerina
Right.
through this human
Right.
named Edna McCrae. And so that's sort of my image, maybe more than all the little specific stories that she would be much better at telling. And
She
recalling.
I think she did the circus. She was a hoochie coochie girl. Standing on the stage to get, people in to see the hoochie coochie dances, is what they called her. But then we met after that. I didn't know her while she was doing that.
yeah, and seeing these pictures of you, and when I was in Chicago and I saw caught a glimpse of my mom in the video,
Mhm.
I was so moved by it because, well, you're both so beautiful, and I think the video especially, I could feel and imagine and smell the room
Mhm.
and the environment and these things that have been these sort of glimpses of a very former life for my mom felt suddenly like, wow, that was really lived and it was charged and you were so young and
Yes.
alive and this was so, important. You're performing, you're dancing, you're learning things, you're in your body. And I felt that in a really a different way than I had. And
Uh-huh.
yeah, it's just found it.
But I was so happy that, and happy's not the word. I was just so I felt so good about the fact that um, your mom so took to learning ballet and worked so hard then to become a member of Ruth Page's company. And then one of our first jobs outside of the studio as well was we both worked at the Starlight Theater in Kansas City, Missouri.
Mm.
8,000 seats.
Mm.
And a choreographer by the name of Harding Dorn would come in from Kansas City. He was the choreographer there for years. And he would come to Chicago to audition people for the season. And it was something else because we would be rehearsing one show during the day and doing another show at night. And then after the rehearsing on Sunday during the day, doing the show at night, then Sunday night we would have, or Saturday or Sunday, I'm not sure. Maybe we had Sunday off, and Saturday night, let's say, was the last show. After rehearsing during the day, we would do a dress rehearsal starting at 11 p.m.
Sounds a little bit exploitative.
until 2
Dancer. I mean,
until 2 in the
were
morning.
you also sewing your ballet shoes?
No, but it was my introduction to musical theater.
Yeah.
And I have pictures of your mom and I doing Bye Bye Birdie with Cheetah Rivera, recreating her part that she did on Broadway. And then a little pop singer at the time by the name of Brenda Lee was playing Kim, the youngster who it's kind of the story revolves around. And your mom and I were at the Starlight Theater, and the end of that, I was there for 2 seasons. The end of that first season, I was given a dance solo. They decided that in Flower Drum Song that we were doing, they were going to put in, because the cha-cha was popular at the time, 1, 2, cha-cha-cha. It was popular at the time. Everything was cha-cha. And we put in a little cha-cha duet number, me and a young woman named Elaine. And then I came back the next season, and they gave me my first role, which was the role of Tommy Gillis in The Music Man. And DeForest Tucker was the star, and playing Zanita opposite, I playing Tommy opposite her, Zanita, his wife. She was this tiny little thing. She was just really tiny, and he was this big 6'2", 6-foot macho guy. And I played the town ruffian. For some reason, I don't know why, in my career, as I've transitioned and do acting or just plays rather than musicals, for some reason, I always, not always, but many times played the bad guy. The heavy, or the rapist, or something like that. For some reason, that's, it's that intensity that happens with those kind of parts, I suppose.
Huh. I wouldn't see you in that.
And then if we'd have a break, I would do a port de bras and say, kind of shock everybody. What is that? Because people that I had to, and I have to say this, I had to for a while really not let people know that I was a dancer, because I wanted to act, and I thought they wouldn't give me that opportunity. It's a bit different now, I think. A lot different now.
Yeah.
But in those days, they wouldn't give you, because you were kind of stuck as doing
you were in
that.
one role or the other.
I mean,
and
Christopher.
there's a little bit of a hierarchy, I think, sometimes too.
Yes.
Between dancing and acting.
Absolutely. Christopher Walken made that transition because he started out as a dancer. Valerie Harper made that transition. And they too had to kind of put it in the background for a while until they started proving themselves as actors.
Until their acting career was pretty secure.
Yeah.
And then you started finding out Christopher Walken took Tap Dancing Queens. And
That's right.
Yeah.
All of that stuff. So it's, but I did, and I was able to do that and study acting. Valerie Harper, as a matter of fact, brought me to my first acting teacher here in New York City, a woman by the name of Mary Tarsai.
Mm. Oh
And
yeah, that's who my mom studied with as well.
I
So
brought your mom to
you
Mary
must have
Tarsai.
recommended, yeah. And she was the one who had been blacklisted. Is she the one that got
Yes,
blacklisted?
yeah.
Yeah, she got the whole communist
Yes, absolutely.
blacklisting.
We didn't know anything about that when we were studying with her, but yeah, she and her husband were both caught up in all of that McCarthyism in the
The
50s.
McCarthyism, yeah.
But she was an amazing teacher.
Mm.
And again, your mom loved Mary Tarsai, but as I knew she would. And Mary loved your mom.
Mm-hmm. Wow, it seems like you were a little bit of a porthole person for her, someone who, yeah.
Yeah, I suppose. I brought,
Yeah.
come on, do this. And your mom's a wonderful actor.
Mm.
You know, and after her mother worked for Maureen Burns worked for Ruth Page and did the company and touring, she then went to Paris and started working on television in Paris and learning the French language and working in the music halls and things like that. She had a wonderful, wonderful career. And then she decided she wanted to be a mom. And she had Faye and her brother. And now from time to time, when time permits and when she's free, she'll do a play or something, living in Los Angeles now. She'll do a play and still dip her foot in the water.
So when you were, pursuing primarily acting roles, at what point did dance kind of come back into the work that you were getting or seeking?
Well, I was doing musicals as well. I mean, my first show on Broadway when I moved from Chicago to New York City was a show called Do I Hear a Waltz? And it's based on an Arthur Lawrence play called Time of the Cuckoo, which was then made into a movie with Katharine Hepburn called Summertime. And it takes place in Venice, Italy. And I played the leading man's son in the show. Then they decided when we were previewing that they needed some dance in it. And it just so happened that the fellow that they brought in to do staging, who was also a choreographer and a dancer himself, Wakefield Poole, knew that I danced. And Herb Ross, who was a wonderful choreographer, and his wife Nora Kay, the ballerina, would come in. They found out. So I'll never forget Nora Kay coming up to me one time. She said, "Do you dance?" I said, "Yeah, I dance, but this is a play." She said, "Oh no," she said, "You must. You must use your talents as a dancer." So the next thing you know, I was dancing in Do I Hear a Waltz? Not totally, but there was one scene as we go through the Piazza San Marco where three couples. And guess what? Somebody took rehearsal video of it, silent film. It's on YouTube.
Ah, really?
Somebody said, "Do you know you're on YouTube from Do I Hear a Waltz? I'm the one in the blue sweater." So there it is. And I danced pretty good, at the time. So it's, yeah. We just keep doing what we do. And again, then I got into George M. I had to tap to learn that. Thank God for Edna McRae and whoever else she brought in. I got into George M., danced in that. And the last thing that I really, really, really danced in was the Los Angeles Company of 42nd Street. I played Andy Lee, the choreographer. And, that opening number is a killer.
More tap dance.
That's right. And I remember before I would go on, when I heard the overture, I'd be in the wings doing 20 push-ups just to get myself going, to get the breath, to get the energy, to get everything. Because when the curtain goes up and we go into that time step, it's like, whoa. And then I did it for 2 years on the road. So I had 3 years with 42nd Street. It was...
What was it like doing that long of a run?
You know something? When you're getting a good salary,
Yeah, that's
and
a
you're
big
going,
motivation.
and you're going from town to town, and you hear the audience's approval. They would scream when that opening number was over. When you're out there and you're really doing it, it's like
And so it nourished you. It
Abs-
didn't deplete you.
no,
Hmm.
not at all. I could have done it for another 3 years. I think.
Wow.
Maybe.
Oh, wow.
But that was the
It's a
last time that I
stamina.
really did a real dance kind of show.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've done a little bit of movement and other things, but not as much real,
Mm.
real dancing like that.
Mm.
The last thing I did was I played opposite Joanne Worley in a musical called The Drowsy Chaperone. No dancing at all, but moving within a number, certainly. Moving within a number.
Mm.
So it comes in handy. And I'll say another thing that I love about having the dance training and know that I have that. Living here in New York City, you, with all of the foot traffic and street traffic, you really know how to make your way. One learns around people to find the space to get through that. And now, for some reason, when tourists come here, they line up 6 across and walk down the street. It's like having to part the Red Sea to get through. And not, especially now, everybody is doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody
Yes,
is doing this.
that's the gesture.
And they don't
of
know
our
where they're
time.
walking to, where they're looking. So my thing now is heads up, eyes up,
I like that.
eyes up. And they can't hear because they have the earphones in. So yeah, it's dancing has served me well in many, many ways.
And so how did it happen that you moved from Chicago to New York? Was that a choice or a job?
Yeah, it was a choice. I came here. Moved here with a buddy of mine at the time who was had his own had a radio show in Chicago, a singer, and he was looking for a record contract. So we both moved to New York. He didn't have a record contract. I didn't have a job. We would just. I'll tell you, when I think about it now, we just kind of jumped in. I mean, we had such faith that we would work.
Mm. How old were you?
19.
What?
Yeah.
Oh.
I was about 19 when I moved to New York. It was like maybe 20, I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
But it was something. And guess what? We both started working. I started working almost immediately, doing television, dancing on TV shows that had the Perry Como show, the Kraft Music Hall, the whatever, with wonderful choreographers like Danny Daniels, Peter Gennaro, John Butler. I mean, wonderful, wonderful people. And then I got an agent, and he started sending me out, and I started just getting other work. It was something. I started working almost immediately. And at that time, we also used to have things called industrial shows about a car or televisions or whatever. And I used to do a ton of industrial shows.
Advertising, kind of?
Kind of. I mean, I remember I did introduce the 1980 Oldsmobile. And we would do like parodies on songs. A choice of engines, 4, 6, and 8. We've got a car that you appreciate. Ain't misbehaving. We're saving mileage for you. Ooh. It's stuck there. I did a tour, 5 cities.
Oh,
And
yeah,
wonderful-
they'll never leave.
No.
Yeah.
Wonderful cities, but industrial. And I could dance, and I sang, and I could read copy and do the sales pitches. So it's
And those paid pretty well, huh?
they paid very well. And we would go to wonderful cities. I mean, that particular show went to Las Vegas, to San Francisco, to Chicago, to, I mean, terrific cities. But, I have to say that because of all the different kinds of dancing I did, and because of all the different kind of training, I would go out and do summer stock jobs as well. And I did a musical called Tabarich, starring opposite, are you ready? Ginger Rogers.
What?
Ginger Rogers and I had a Charleston number that we did that would bring down the house. And we choreographed one encore to do it. And we got so much applause, we went into the wings, and she said, let's go out and do another one. So what
You
happened,
supervised one?
we kind of did the same one we did before, but we had an exit step where we do like hop, flip the leg off like this and go off stage, and then I would turn around, her arms would come out from the wings, I'd fall back into her arms like I was exhausted, you know, and she'd pull me off the stage. So when we went back on for the next one, she said, you pull me off this time, you know, pull me off the stage. So we worked it up to like about 3 encores.
Wow.
But I couldn't believe it. You know, there I was, this kid from the south side of Chicago, dancing in this incredible number with Ginger Rogers. And then I played
thrilling.
Barnaby and Hello Dolly with Betty Grable. You know, I see all these are the people that I saw in those movie musicals when I was a kid that made me want to.
Did you learn anything like from Ginger Rogers, like about the way she worked or her
She was very
Her-
she was very disciplined about what she did, and I'll never
secrets?
no secrets really. But I do remember when we were playing in Kansas City, in outdoor theater, 8,000 people. After we would do our number, she would walk behind the flats, behind the set, in circles. She says, you're like a racehorse after you do a number like this. You got to come down. And she would walk,
Wow.
walk. She was very gracious, and we got along really, really well, thank God. You know, she was a really gracious woman. And Betty Grable was amazing. Dan Daly, you know, and Gene Kelly.
What? You danced with Gene Kelly?
I didn't dance with him, but I auditioned for him to play the role of Barnaby in the movie of Hello Dolly. And he sent me out to Hollywood for a screen test. So I can say I kind of work with him because
Right.
he did direct me in the screen test, and he was a yeah. I couldn't believe it. It was like, is this real? I never said to him, I've always wanted to be you. But I never said that. But
Yeah.
I mean, it was, and I'll never forget that we first met when I did this audition. We were, I had to meet him at Carnegie Hall in a little recital hall upstairs. And I sat in the back of the room, and I had a valise, like a little black suitcase, you know, valise with stuff in it. My songs, if I was going to sing or what have you, or a change of clothes. I see Gene Kelly walking from the wings onto the stage to come down from the stage to meet me as I'm sitting in the back there. And my heart started fluttering like, oh man, this is Gene Kelly, man. You're meeting Gene Kelly. And as I go to get up out of the seat into the aisle to shake hands with him, I tripped over my valise. And I'm on the floor like this, shaking hands with him. And that was my introduction. But he called me back a couple of times, and I sang and I danced some more and did all that stuff. And it was between me and my pal, Danny Locken. And Danny looks kind of more hayseedy, I suppose, and than I did at the time. But and then 20th Century Fox calls me one day, and they said, we're doing this DVD of people's screen tests, like big stars screen tests, and we would like to use yours from Hello Dolly. I said, well, that'd be great. I don't know where it is. I've always wanted to see it. I'd like to know, you know, was I terrible? Is that... So she said, no, you don't understand. We have it. It's in the vaults at 20th Century. We're going to use it with your permission.
Yeah.
So I said yes, and they sent it to me, and I was pretty good, I thought. I would do things a little differently now. But yeah, I mean, again, all of the people that I admired, not all, but many that I saw in the movies, which was the thing that got me wanting to be a dancer and to work in the show business. You know, it's all happened. I kind of living my dream.
Yeah.
And it's great. And
Yeah.
you are too.
Seems like you had a very fulfilling,
Yeah.
have had, and are having.
Are having.
Still.
I mean,
yeah.
and it's great living here in New York City because, as you know, we have the best of the best. All of the major ballet companies, all of the major dance companies, I should say, are here. Are come in and tour. And then some. The Takaraska from Tokyo is coming to do an all-female Chicago which would be great fun to see, huh?
Mm-hmm.
And theater.
Yeah.
I'm a big theater. I go to the theater all the time. I just, you sit and you look and you learn. Sometimes what not to do, but I'm an avid theater goer.
What did you see when you were in Chicago? Would you see tours that came through or other?
Yeah, well, that
Chicago-based
was it.
movies?
But I didn't ever go to the theater. I mean, maybe I did before Miss McCrae or during that time, but I would go to see. They would have like regional theater. Some movie stars would come in and do a play, an obscure play, many times. But the first musical I ever saw was My Fair Lady in Chicago at the Schubert Theater, and because two of the people that were studying at the time with Miss McCrae were dancers in the show, and they invited me. They saw I was a kid. I was wanting to be in the business, and I was invited. And then I saw Forrest Tucker in Music Man, and then a few years later, I'm doing it with him. It's like, whoa. Musical theater, but Chicago's a wonderful town. There's so much there. And of course, my dear friends, Dolores Lipinski and Patricia Klekovic, are at the Ruth Page School. I mean, they're carrying on the tradition. And they're also, learn it. Learn
They
it
studied
quickly.
directly with her.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and were in the company
Right.
with her. And there they are passing on what they've learned and what they were a part of.
What do you think it was that kept them together all these years and still active at the Ruth Page Foundation? I mean, they've been there since the 60s.
Yes, they have, haven't they?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's first of all, they knew each other before they got into the Page Company. They studied dance together as kids. And I think they just feel like, I don't know what they feel like, but it would seem to me, after being together and working together and going through so many things together, marriages, death, the Larry Long, Dolores's extremely gifted husband, dancer, choreographer. That it was Dolores, that was a big blow to her. And I know that dance is what saved her. Not saved her, but helped her to get through the sadness and whatever else. That she was passing on what she had learned. And I think that Patty and Dee, as I call them, have remained friends just because they do want to carry on. Who after them, who worked directly with Ruth Page, is there to carry on that legacy? So they're devoted, really devoted to that. I mean, they're treasures. They're Chicago treasures. Patty Klekovic and Dolores Lipinski.
There's something about those formative years, like you made friends with Maureen at a young age and are still in touch.
And also Monica Carter, who was with the Ruth Page Ballet, who studied with Miss McCrae. Barbara Whitkoff, who studied with Miss McCrae and was a part of the Ruth Page Ballet Company. I mean, I'm still friends with many of those people. I like to keep the thread going a little bit to see how they're doing and what they're doing with their lives. And I'll tell you, if I'm asked to dance now, I will go back to class and I will hone up. Hone up? Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Hone myself
Yeah. Hone yourself.
Yeah.
to get to do it again,
Hone your
because
skills.
yes, the basics are there. I certainly can't do what I did when I was 21 years old, but I can still move. I still move well, as they say in the theater. And I would do it. As a matter of fact, a friend of mine she goes to a tap class on Saturdays, and I think I'm going to start doing it again. I think there's a gentleman by the name of Bob Audie who teaches here, who's been around forever. And he has
Do you know Bob Body?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a legend.
a legend. And Bob uses a pianist, a trio.
Probably the only
One
class in New
left.
York, yeah.
Saturday classes. I've got to start doing that again. I have 2 pairs of tap shoes. And every now and then I pull them out and say,
Disturb your neighbors.
no, I can't do it. I can't do it. But I say, these Shoes got to be dancing again soon.
It's like riding a bike.
It is like riding a bike. How can you ever forget a time step, a double time step, and a triple time step, and a double triple? Miss McCrae taught us a double triple time step as well.
Fancy.
That's right. She gave it all to us. Yeah.
Well, and then when you do it 8 times a week for 3 years,
Yeah.
it probably is in there forever.
It's
Yes,
in there,
that is definitely in there forever.
and Maxi Fords and shuffling off to Buffalo and all the other things, all of the pullbacks.
Yeah. You got them
Did you hear
sitting
them?
down.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
I think
Pretty clean.
they're probably there. I wonder what they'll sound like when I put the shoes on, and you can really hear it. But it's about practicing. You practice makes, well, it doesn't always make perfect, but practice. How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice.
Were there any, can you think of maybe 1 or 2 skills or concepts that you learned from Miss McCrae that, you just kept relying on throughout your career?
Yes.
Yeah.
Suit up, show up, and say yes. Makes sense, doesn't it? Get yourself together. You got your technique. You know what you're doing. Say yes to the audition and go out and do it. And then you just leave the results to, Yeah.
So that she would say that to you?
I don't
Or
know that
those your
I don't
words?
know that she said it, used those words exactly, but that was what it was about. And she also, when she took her group of girls out to do a show at the Polish restaurant, we did. She had us out doing all kinds of things. We worked for the Chicago Polish Opera Company with, I didn't know at the time, European opera legends, Marta Egert and Jan Kapura, her husband, doing that. They were famous for it. I never knew that. All I knew, I was out there doing the can with Joanne and Monica. I mean, that's what I was doing. And then we would do something for the German Opera Company in Chicago, the Chicago Germanic Society. We would do Von Blum de Hawaii. I couldn't believe it. I said, here we have the German Opera Company doing this opera called Von Blum de Hawaii. Boom, 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 doing all these kind of things. It was crazy, but you know what? We were
De Hawaii?
de Hawaii, the Von Blum de Hawaii,
It was
something.
like German
Yeah,
for Hawaii.
something
Hawaii, yeah.
Hawaii, something about whatever that. What I didn't even know what it meant, but I knew we were out there dancing and we were doing the best we can with it all. But it was, we would just go out there and do our stuff, do what we learn, keep practicing. What better place? And she would always say it takes a lot about auditions. It takes a lot of little ones before you do the big ones. So no matter what you're called for to do, to audition for, go out and do it. Because you're testing yourself, kind of. Seeing what your limits are, or how much you have to learn, or how much more you might have to learn in order to get the job that you're going out for. The name of the game is get the gig. And I'll never forget when I was at Kansas City with your mom at the Starlight Theater, we had this guy named Joe McCauley. He was the oldest character actor in the world. He was in the original Three Musketeers on Broadway. And he was in every show, and all he would do is put nose prosthetics and beards and mustaches and wigs, and he would change things all the time. And I thought that was so great. That's also what I wanted to do now, was to just be all different kinds of people and characters. And I said, Joe, what do I have to do to be like what you're doing? I admire you, so I want to do what you're doing. He said, never forget this, my son. Chance favors the man prepared. So I've been preparing all my life, preparing for the next thing. What do I need to learn to do this job? What do I need to learn to do that job? Who do I need to know? Go to the audition. Just go and do it.
Do you have more questions?
Uh,
I don't wanna-
What's that?
I don't want to dominate.
Oh yeah, no, I think
Yeah.
it's good because it's about Chicago and your memories and I mean
You had
I
moved from
do.
Chicago when you started dancing, right?
from LA.
Yeah, from LA.
LA, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
From Chicago to LA. And
No, I was never in Chicago.
oh, you never were?
No,
Oh, that's
no,
right.
no.
You were born in LA.
Yeah, I was born in LA.
Of
My
course
mom
you
had lived
were.
here and then
That's right, of
Yeah.
course. But she
Um,
was your brother was born here.
my brother was born here, yeah.
Yes,
He was here and
that's
then
it.
they got pregnant with me here.
Yes.
And then they moved to
To LA,
LA.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know how proud your mother is of you to see what you have done with your work and how you've I was saying what you do is dance / theater.
Mhm. Yeah, it's a kind of it's dance, it's theater, it's installation, it's its own creature.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's interesting hearing you talk about all these shows, which I think mostly I imagine had scripts
Yeah, sure.
and or music already written or
Yes.
there's a difference in the process when I'm making it from scratch. Like
Mhm.
there's this sort of people come in with their histories and we have some commonalities
Mm.
of things we've trained in or studied or know about,
Mm-hmm.
but the making of it, can take a year to 2 years
Right.
of exploring and experimenting to sort of discover
From scratch,
these
then
new forms. Yeah, and then
discovering.
building. And through discovering. And I wonder if you've been in processes that had more of that kind of either improvisational or devising
Yes.
or creating it from your own life or because there's a much, like the way things you're describing sound much more showbiz in the more traditional sense.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, mostly it's been that, but I was a part of a company that Jerome Robbins put together.
Mm.
The
Wow.
government gave him $300,000, which was a lot of money back then, to form the nucleus of a company which was finally called the American Theater Lab. And everybody in the city auditioned for it because he wanted actor, dancer, singers. The strengths being different and all in the 10 people that he chose. And when my first audition for him, I did a monologue, and I think I most probably sang some kind of a song. And then he had me back a couple of times to do that. Jerry had me back, and then he said, "Well, the next callback, we're going to have you dance a bit." He said, "I don't want you to be frightened," because he didn't know I was a dancer. "I don't want you to, don't let that scare you." I said, "Well, I've had a little dance training. I think I'll be okay." He said, "Well, I want you to come back and do this." So, of course, I went there and I socked it to him. I danced.
Triple threat.
I danced. And so we were all there together for about 5 months or something. We worked every day from 10 o'clock till about 5 o'clock in the evening, working on all kinds of improv things. He brought in Robert Wilson, who was not the person that he is
Wow.
today. He hadn't made a name for himself yet. And we would do all kinds of, we call them happenings. We would do improv things. And we would work on the Japanese no drama. And we worked on a Brecht play that was correlated with the no drama. And we worked on Anna Sokolow would come in 3 times a week and give us movement for actors. We would have a dance class. And that's when I first met Anna Sokolow. And she too was a big influence in my life. I mean, she was so pure, and it really came from dance for her. It wasn't about steps, it came from the gut. It came from the feeling of what. Not how, but why are you doing this? And I think one time, I I have home movies of you, video
Oh,
movies of
really?
you taking Anna's class.
Oh God, that
At
was
the
probably
H-
so awkward.
No, at the HB studio. I do. I do. Remember, I said, you've got to take one of her
Wow,
classes.
yes,
And you
yes.
went.
Gosh,
And
yeah,
I observed
remember.
that day. And I don't know if you
Aw.
knew I was taking,
No, I have no idea.
I was probably in a skulking about in a
I was
corner
probably
somewhere.
awkward 16-year-old, I think, at that
Yeah.
time. Yeah, yeah, braces.
Really young. But
Yeah.
then, yeah, but it was great. It was really great. But how
Mm.
then, like Anna's work and what she's done over the years is also very different than certainly what you do. But aspects of what she does. I mean, she talked about using for music sometimes just percussive chords,
Mm-hmm.
and you would, but when you're developing something like that, I mean, one of your pieces. How does it start?
Mm. Well, it starts in different ways. I mean, it'll start from um, an inquiry, a question that I have. It'll start sometimes from an image in my mind. It rarely starts from music,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm always kind of collecting from things I see and experience and people interacting on the street and
But it's not always
But it's-
your music. What accompanies your work
mm-hmm.
is not music, just music. Yes, there is do re mi fa, that kind of music, but sounds, a lot of sounds, and a lot of things in your work, right? mean-
It depends on the piece.
Yes.
It depends on the piece. Each piece in a way is its own world. It's its own project. So it's what that world needs. Like the most recent work that I'm working on is a lot of vocalizing.
Mm-hmm.
So the performers are singing throughout a lot of the work, and that's a main element of the sound, but they're singing as the body goes through all these different extreme positions and shapes and facial expressions.
But they're not trained
So-
singers, would you
It's a
say?
mixture.
A mixture. Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's a mixture. Some have a history of training in music
Uh-huh.
and singing, and actually majority
Of them.
have a history with. Yeah, I picked them because
But it's not about singing.
no, it's about
Right.
like how the sound resonates through the
Right.
forms and shapes of the body, and
Right.
how it works with dissonance against meaning, or comes and creates some kind of synthesis, and the push and the pull between the sensation of disorientation and coherence. So it's playing with the form of the sound in as opposed to just trying to make something
Right.
purely musical. Yeah.
And
But- Yeah, go ahead.
do the dancers contribute?
A lot. Yes.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like I'm making with and through and creating an alchemy in the room, and creating and also directing and crafting and tuning, tuning and tightening, but it's coming from direction and questions, and then through their bodies and improvisations and play and yeah, so it sounds like there's some similarity between my process and what you did with
Robbins.
Yeah.
No, we did a lot of different kinds of things, but some of it was.
I didn't know you had that. in
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
How did you
Yeah.
find that experience? Coming from a background
Yeah.
of learning codified technique and being in
Mhm.
scripted shows, was it
Mm.
intimidating or freeing or?
I don't know. I think that there was so much trust between the 10 of us that you just kind of went with the flow. I mean, he hired us because he trusted that we would bring something to the table. So he would make a suggestion about something, or we would work on a particular thing. We were working on the Kennedy assassination.
What year was this? Was it late 60s?
60s, yes. And
definitely post 63.
yeah, yeah. We were working on that, and we would do improvs about all of the people after Kennedy's assassination who then died. Columnist Dorothy Kilgallen, Zapru, the photographer, all these different people. So we'd take on the parts of these people, playing men, women, everything. It didn't. So we would just improv on material that we had read about. We would take it from there. Jack Ruby, Lee Harvey Oswald. We worked on the Lee Harvey Oswald diary as well. You know, it was amazing. And Anna would come in 3 times a week, and we'd have class with her. And Marion Rich came in, and we did voice, not singing, but speech exercises. And then Sheldon Harnick's brother, Jay Harnick, came in, and we worked on Shakespeare.
Did it lead to something in the end, or it folded, or?
We were supposed to go to Spoleto with it, and then something happened. We were working on a Brecht play called The Measures Taken, that Brecht based on a Japanese no drama called Taniko. And we were going to take that along with excerpts from other things we were doing. And then something happened with money. I don't know. And
fell through.
Yeah, it fell through. And then eventually it just disbanded.
Yeah.
It just disbanded. But did I ever think, when I'm there with Robbins learning, we had a woman that came in to teach us aspects of the Japanese no drama, how you hold your hands and how you slide your feet on the floor, and it's very slow, and how the head moves and things like that. Did I know that so many years later, late 60s, 10 years later, I would be auditioning for Harold Prince and Stephen Sondheim to do a show called Pacific Overtures that was all about the Japanese kabuki and no drama. I mean, the techniques that were used. So I had done it already. So I knew what the voice had to do. I knew aspects of movement of it. Got the gig.
Lucky you.
Suit up, show up, and say yes.
I was just gonna say that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes. So.
Did you ever do shows that you didn't like and still just kept doing? No?
I don't think so.
No, there was never like, well, this isn't the best one, but.
No. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that any of us in the business are lucky to, when you think of all the people, I used to say, hey, look up in the sky, see that airplane? There's 100 actors coming from Los Angeles to New York. Now they want to be on stage. See that airplane? There's 100 actors coming from New York to Los Angeles. And when you think of all the people who want to be in the business, but so many of them base that on, well, I want to be a television star, or I want to be Justin Bieber, or I want to be whoever. They don't realize all of the blood, sweat, and tears that go into learning the crafts so that you're able to get the gig. And I think that I was asked to teach for the Kennedy Center's College Theater Festival. I did that 2 years in a row, teaching musical theater audition techniques based on the people that I had studied with, because I keep copious notes about everything. It's all written down somewhere or
That's
scanned into the
great.
computer.
Wow.
It's all there. And so I would go back to things that I learned from different wonderful teachers that I've studied with, voice teachers and acting teachers and whatever, so that we can start the audition from the moment you open the door and say hi, your audition has started. And we talk about what we wear to an audition and what not to wear to an audition, and how to move within the confines of a song, when to move within the context of a song. And a lot of people don't know how to use their hands while they're singing something. Less is more. Always. Less is more. So What was the question?
Well, I was just asking about, you've worked so much and in such a variety of ways.
Yeah,
If
I've
there
been
was
lucky.
ever something
I've been
that
lucky.
you just felt, and that, yeah, you seem so open, the suit up, show up, say yes, implies you're saying yes to a lot of things, and you're working all the time. And there must be things that you love and things that you don't like as much, and that or do you feel like you've just developed a way into things where you always just work with integrity and
Well, I think
Yeah.
that if I put myself on the line to audition for something, I pretty much know
decided you want it?
what I'm getting myself into.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, if you're in a show or whatever, and maybe there's a couple of bad apples in the bunch, and you're not really having a terrific time, you know that it'll be over soon.
Right. Not your whole life.
And it's not
yeah.
your whole life.
Yeah,
that
and
you're
there'll
gonna
be
go,
another one.
But
yeah.
that doesn't really happen too often, I must say. I've met the most wonderful people, the most fun times that I've had. I mean, it's been incredible. And it all started with the dance.
Edna McCrae.
It did.
Miss
It all
McCrae.
started with that Miss McCrae. And my teachers, Edna McCrae, Anna Sokolow, Luigi here in New York City, the famous Luigi. Acting teachers, Mary Tarsai, Uta Hagen, Herbert Berghoff. I've had the privilege and needless to say, pleasure of studying with the best, and working with and for the best. So I feel blessed. I have a lot of gratitude for a pretty lucky life.
That was a lovely sentiment. I just want to be conscious of your time. It's a little after 7.
Wow.
Yeah. Time
You do.
flies
You
when
said you
you're
had 2
having
hours of stories. I'm sure you have more than that.
fun.
Well, that's probably enough. I mean, I think we've covered. I think most
Yeah.
importantly, most importantly that the teachers that we have to acknowledge, the people that have given us the gift of their knowledge, so that we can do our work. And another thing about McCrae that I thought is incredible, Faye. I think your mother has these too. What she would do at the professional class, which was the 11:30 class that followed the 10 o'clock class, 10 to 11:15, and then the 11:30 class, she would write in a loose leaf notebook, a small loose leaf notebook, she did her homework. She did her homework. She knew what the bar was. She knew what the tendu exercise was going to be. She knew what the rond de jambe exercise, bar was going to be. It was all written down and in counts,
Wow.
and what music you could use for it every week. And after class on Monday, we would sit before lunch, those of us as scholarship especially, but there were just 2 of us on a scholarship, and write it all down in our loose leaf books. So I have 2 years of Edna McCrae's ballet classes that
Wow,
are
how
written
cool.
down. It's really cool.
This is the guy to go to for archives.
Yeah. Well, they're in Newberry already too.
Yeah, oh, they are?
Yeah, if
Oh,
only they
beautiful.
would've
At the
open
Newberry,
that day.
and that
Yeah,
another
I know, those-
another treasure of New York. I mean, of Chicago, the Newberry Library and Anne Barzell. Allison and Martha Briggs and Allison Hinderleiter. Incredible what they've done with people's dance archives. Anne Barzell started it all. And Anne Barzell, amazing, amazing woman. She lived to be 102.
Something like that.
Wow.
Something like
Yeah.
that. And she would schlep from her apartment and get on the bus, shopping bags full of things. She took silent movies of Isadora Duncan. I mean, she has all of this stuff, and it's all there in in the Anne Barzell collection at the Newberry Library in Chicago on the near north side. Or do we call it? What do we call that area now? Lincoln Park? No, not really. Rush?
I'm still kind of learning my neighborhoods.
Maybe it's near
It's
Rush.
not exactly Gold. Is it Gold Coast?
Gold Coast, I think
Yeah.
probably so. Fantastic, wonderful library. And like I said, Martha and Allison have done humongous job, and I'm still sending things to them to keep, you know, have on file in the archives. But yeah, amazing, amazing. And there was a man. Oh, I wanted to talk about, just if I may briefly, a man called Robert Simpson. It was Bob Simpson. Some of the first, as I continued to do that Kansas City first job, I come back to Chicago, and he was auditioning for a cabaret kind of show in a restaurant cabaret in Milwaukee called Fazio's on Fifth. And it was called The Hits of Broadway. And there were either 4 men and 5 women, or 3 men and 4 women, and we would just do number after number after number of Broadway shows, hits from Broadway shows. Showtime on Broadway, you know, that kind of thing. And then it was a big success, and we took it to Chicago, to the Del Prado Hotel on 55th and Lakeshore Drive in Hyde Park. And we did it there for quite a while. It was a big success. And then we took the same show, not that same show, because we changed the show every 6 weeks, and different people would come and go in and out of it, you know. We then took it to the Edgewater Beach Hotel, to what was called the Polynesian Village. It had nothing to do with Polynesian. No, the show wasn't nothing, but that was the name of the room for some reason, because it was decorated that way. And we did our hits of Broadway there for, well, off and on for a couple of years. So Bob Simpson is really responsible for a lot of Chicago talent having their careers. He gave them the opportunity to test the waters doing the show, and they were terrific. It's too bad we didn't have all this video stuff and recording stuff to have recorded some of Bob's shows. It would have been treasure.
Yeah, Ann Barzell didn't make it to those,
Yes, she did.
so maybe there is some
Well,
footage.
maybe of hers, maybe
Yeah.
maybe silent footage.
Yeah.
Oh, she was a wonderful champion. She would always give me wonderful reviews, saying that I was the young dynamo, James Dybus, dances, blah blah blah, or the human tornado, because I had energy. I had energy and technique, and wonderful people. Audrey Deckman. I don't know if you know that name. She was a Miss Chicago. Beautiful, beautiful woman. Studied with Edna McRae as well. She came into the show for a while. She was wonderful. And Bob Simpson, like I said, gave a lot of people their first breaks in show business. And I'm hoping that he will be recognized somehow. I've sent all of my photographs because we did take, a photographer came in and took 8x10 photographs of the shows. And I saved the reviews, so they're all at the Newberry Library. So maybe there can be a special Bob Simpson archive as well.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, every day it seems we uncover more.
It's
so
great.
You are ahead of the curve for
Okay.
most people on that. Like, that's impressive.
Well, that's great.
Yeah. What was it like coming back to Chicago? You know, when you were on tour, did you see friends? Did you do anything?
Sure. I did that show about the cars there, the Oldsmobile show at the auditorium. And the boyfriend at the Studebaker Theater. And then I was on a tour, a 2-year tour of Guys and Dolls. And we played the Schubert, which is called something else now, off of State Street, west of State on Adams, I believe, wherever.
Private bank or
Maybe something like that.
generic. Yeah.
And I did Guys and Dolls there. Was it 42nd Street? I don't remember. Oh, that's 42nd Street. You're reaching for this thing. Oh, look at this. Janae, this was 42nd Street, and there I am as Andy Lee doing that opening number that just brought down the house. It was really Gower Champion did a great job with that one.
Yeah. That's a great photo.
Isn't it? My friend Susan Barnes colored me in it. Yeah. So it was, Chicago has so much to offer. Yeah, it's called the Second City, but it's a big second. I mean, all of the theaters, the dance companies that are there, the big and the shows that come through, and you have Steppenwolf, and you have the Goodman Theater, and all of the wonderful things and things that the Shakespeare Theater in Chicago as well. Just wonderful.
When you would come back for tour, would you just hang with friends, or is that what you meant? Like,
well-
what would he just do with his time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when you come in with a show, yeah, and I would see family because they're still in Chicago. Um, but you do your show in the evening, so you're not through until 10:30, and
Yeah.
then you go to wherever it is you're staying when you're there, and you kind of wind down. And then during the day when you're not doing that, I am the tourist of the world. I mean, there's always new things to see in Chicago, new things, and I do my homework. Miss McCrae taught me to do my homework. I do my homework. I find out what's new in Chicago. What do I have to see? What haven't I seen? Is there a play I want to see? Is there a new park, or is there a new whatever? So I always found my days were filled, and they still are here in New York, with all kinds of things. But yeah, I'd you make that's another thing. When you're on tour with a show, you make friends, wonderful friends with your cast, and however many get together and you do fun things together.
Do you think there's a Chicago aesthetic?
You mean when you're up on the roof?
That was funny.
My mom
I
definitely says rough.
roof.
Yeah.
You're up on the roof. I don't know. I've not really thought about it. If there's a Chicago aesthetic, I think that because it's New York, New York, New York, everything happens first in New York, New York, but it doesn't happen first in New York all the time. There's a play in Chicago, and now I think it's at the Goodman, with Christine Ebersol and Patti LuPone.
Yeah, it's about
Helena Rubinstein.
makeup. It's about
Helena Rubinstein, who was a makeup person,
yeah.
and the other lady who's also a
Is
makeup.
it Estee Lauder? No,
No.
but it was like it was a rivalry.
Yes,
between
there
two
was a rival-
cosmetics.
Come on, James, you know this.
Divas. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's starting in Chicago. I believe Grey Gardens. I mean, a lot of things start in Chicago and are there for the first. I think audiences are really lucky. I wish that I were able to just zoom back and forth and go and see shows that are happening there for the first time. And I'm not too familiar with what's going on in the dance world in Chicago. But believe me, if I lived there, I would be up on it and I would be there.
I believe that.
Yeah, it's true. Because I've chosen this as a lifestyle for myself. And I love what I do. And I love to see other people dunking themselves into what they do and just giving it all to us, 150%. That's what we do. We really. I'm trying to think of that Martha Graham quote about the angels of God or the dancers of God. It's a wonderful quote. Google it. Yeah. Anyhow, it's so great to have all these wonderful memories about time in the theater and how dance has played such a big, important part of my life and still does. I remember sometimes, I don't know about you, do you ever do this? I'm sitting at the computer and I'll maybe put in like a CD or I'll go to iTunes and something will come up and all of a sudden you start moving in your chair from the computer and then I find myself getting out of the chair and I'm moving furniture out of the way in the living room and I'm dancing. I'm dancing in my living room. So I say, once a dancer, always a dancer. It's that simple.
Suit up, show up, and say.
And say yes. Absolutely. This-
Well, thank you both.
Thank
so
you.
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
yeah. I hope you'll be able to use some of that. I mean, yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. No, this was easy. You make
No.
it very easy. It's very comfortable being
Yeah.
with you. Thanks, Janae. Thank
Yeah,
you.
you're a good listener.
Yeah.